Shadow Leader of the House.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and can I take this opportunity to congratulate you on your elevation to the chair and to welcome you to your place. Can I ask the Leader of the House to provide an update on forthcoming business?
Leader.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. The business for the week commencing the 9th of September includes Monday, the 9th of September, consideration of a motion to approve the Russia Sanctions EU Exit Amendment No. 3 Regulations 2024, followed by consideration of a motion to approve the Syria Sanctions EU Exit Amendment No. 2 Regulations 2024, followed by consideration of a motion to approve the Draft Renewable Transport Fuel Obligations Sustainable Aviation Fuel Order 2024, followed by consideration of a motion to approve the Draft Human Medicines Amendments relating to naloxone and transfers of functions Regulations 2024. Tuesday, the 10th of September, debate on a motion relating to the Social Fund Winter Fuel Payment Regulations 2024. Followed by Opposition Day, first allotted day, first half, debate on a motion in the name of the official opposition, subject to be announced. Wednesday, the 11th of September, general debate on building safety and resilience. Thursday, the 12th of September, general debate on matters to be raised before the forthcoming adjournment. The House will rise for the conference recess at the conclusion of business on Thursday, the 12th of September, and return on Monday, the 7th of October. Members may also wish to know that, subject to progress of business, the House will rise for the short November recess at the close of business on Wednesday, the 6th of November, and return on Monday, the 11th of November. Rise for the Christmas recess at the close of business on Thursday, 19th of December, and return on Monday, the 6th of January 2025. Rise for the February recess at the close of business on Thursday, the 13th of February, and return on Monday, the 24th of February. Rise for the Easter recess at the close of business on Tuesday, the 8th of April, and return on Tuesday, the 22nd of April. Rise for the early May bank holiday at the close of business on Thursday, the 1st of May, and return on Tuesday, the 6th of May. Rise for the Whitsun recess at the close of business on Thursday, the 22nd of May, and return on Monday, the 2nd of June. And rise for the summer recess at the close of business on Tuesday, the 22nd of July.
Leader of the House.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. A warm welcome back to everyone following summer recess. And I'd like to thank the Leader for setting out those recess dates. That will make her popular, I think, with everybody across the entire House. And listening to those dates, she has just saved me from booking a flight that I would otherwise have had to cancel. So I am personally very grateful to the Leader as well. Let me also start by thanking the Leader for confirming a debate on building safety. I know the whole House sends out heartfelt sympathy to the victims and families of the Grenfell disaster. I have personally heard harrowing testimony directly from the survivors who lost loved ones. What they experienced was truly horrific. We must make sure it never happens again, and that those responsible, including the cladding manufacturers who lied and covered up evidence, suffer the consequences, including criminal sanctions. And governments must never again ignore safety warnings, as happened over a period of decades. Mr. Speaker, Madam Deputy Speaker, like many MPs, I've been contacted by constituents, and that, my honourable friend over there is clearly being contacted by constituents as we speak, desperate with worry about Labour's planned removal of the winter fuel payment from almost all pensioners. I'm glad there will be a debate and a vote next Tuesday. Labour backbenchers may be less glad at the prospect of being whipped to vote to remove winter fuel payments from pensioners earning less than half the minimum wage. 84% of pensioners in poverty will lose the winter fuel payment under these proposals. Is this their idea of a government of service, leaving pensioners in poverty shivering at winter time? Yesterday, the Prime Minister refused to explain why he is choosing to fund huge pay rises for train drivers and other state sector workers while slashing benefits from impoverished pensioners. That is not the kind of change Labour voters thought they were going to get from a Labour government is it? The Prime Minister also refused to say yesterday how much less energy support an 80-year-old on just £13,000 would be this winter compared to last. Perhaps he doesn't know the answer. Perhaps he doesn't care. Will the leader confirm? The answer is that 80-year-old on £13,000 will receive £600 less energy support this year compared to last. One pensioner wrote to me saying this: "The allowance meant I could turn the heating on. Now I fear hypothermia during the coming winter months." No wonder the public oppose this by a margin of 2 to 1. Several Labour members agree and have already signed a motion condemning it and will presumably vote against it. I hope all decent Labour MPs do the same. But will the leader confirm, if they do that, will they lose the whip like their rebellious colleagues last July? At this rate, it won't just be pensioners' heating gone by Christmas, it'll be Labour's majority as well. Mr. Speaker, I call on the leader, Madam Deputy Speaker, I call on the leader to arrange a debate on ethics and integrity in government. The independent Civil Service Commissioner, a former Labour MP, has had to initiate an inquiry into improper appointments by this government. A government of service. It turns out they mean service to their cronies and their donors. It is just wrong to stuff party donors and cronies into what are supposed to be impartial civil service positions. Can you imagine the howls of protest if the previous government had done that? The Times to the civil service. No, the Times reports the Chancellor did not disclose to her permanent secretary the fact she had appointed a Labour Party donor to a senior civil service position, which would be a breach of the ministerial code. Will the leader now tell us, is the Times report true? We have even seen a Labour Party donor, Lord Ali, receive a Downing Street pass for no apparent reason, other than being a donor, of course. Who gave him that pass? Was it the Prime Minister, whose clothes Lord Ali apparently pays for? Extraordinary. Has anyone else here had a donor pay for their clothes? I certainly haven't. Or maybe Sue Gray issued the pass, perhaps forgetting to declare that Lord Ali also contributed to her son's election campaign. So will the government now come clean and disclose all of the politically affiliated appointments to the civil service which they have made? Will they confirm if the conflicts were disclosed as required by the ministerial code? Will they provide a list of all passes issued to government buildings to anyone other than ministers, civil servants and special advisers? I strongly suspect this self-proclaimed government of service will not admit to any of those things. So later today, I will write to the Advisor on Ministerial Interests and the Civil Service Commissioner asking that they investigate independently these important questions. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, a lot has happened this summer. A lot has gone down, as they say. But the main thing that's gone down are the government's approval ratings. Just last week, More in Common found the Prime Minister's approval ratings have plummeted by 27 points in a matter of a few weeks, plumbing a new low of -16. It turns out that parading around in £16,000 worth of expensive suits paid for by Lord Ali, subverting civil service independence by stuffing it with cronies and donors, and stripping impoverished pensioners of their benefits, isn't that popular after all? I think even the leader will now have to admit the truth. This has been an exceptionally poor start to government.
Leader of the House.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I would too like to welcome back everybody for this new term, and I knew that my announcing the recess dates would be the big news of this morning, and I'm pleased to be able to help everybody with their family and holiday arrangements. And can I thank House staff who've worked away to ensure that many new colleagues have now got their own offices in this place. I'd also like to congratulate our Olympic and Paralympic athletes who have done our country proud on this golden summer of sport. I want to thank the police and the criminal justice system for how quickly they curtailed the thuggery and needless riotings we saw in some of our towns and cities over the summer. I also welcome the publication of the second report of the Grenfell inquiry. The findings are devastating, particularly that the deaths of the 72 victims were completely preventable. Now justice and accountability will follow. The report raises some profound challenges for building safety, regulations and recourse for residents and leaseholders, something I'm very familiar with my own constituency. We've made time for a first debate on building safety next week, and further time will be made available, and the Government will come to Parliament with its full response and action plan in due course. Madam Deputy Speaker, we've had a big first week back, delivering on our packed legislative agenda for change. We've taken our first steps to bring our railways into public ownership and enhance fiscal responsibility, the bedrock of economic stability, to ensure the Trust's mini-budget can never happen again. Second reading of Great British Energy begins the drive to lower bills and energy independence. And today we introduce the Water Special Measures Bill to clean up our waterways and make water companies accountable. And the House of Lords Hereditary Peers Bill will begin to honour our commitment to constitutional reform. This is a government of service, delivering on our manifesto. As part of that change that people voted for, we've also had to clean up the mess left to us by the party opposite and take the difficult decisions they ducked. A £22 billion black hole that was covered up from the British people and covered up from the spending watchdog. Full prisons clogging up the criminal justice system. Thankfully, we've already begun to act before we had to take swift action to lock up rioters and thugs over the summer. An asylum overspend of nearly £7 billion. £7 billion overspend. Shoplifting effectively decriminalised under their watch. Crippling strikes costing the country dear. Unresolved pay awards sitting on the desks of ministers. And I'm afraid he might want to give us a lecture, but we've seen before, only 2 years ago, what happens when massive unfunding spending commitments are made against the advice of Treasury experts and in the face of our financial institutions. The markets lose all confidence. The price of government borrowing soars. Interest rates hike. Inflation gets out of control. That was 2 years ago, under Liz Truss, who he backed for leader. Nothing damages the real incomes of ordinary people, including pensioners, more than an economy crashing, a crash caused by his government's recklessness. Has he learned? Nothing. That was his party's approach, but this government will fix the foundations and restore economic stability. The legacy they have left us means we've had to make some really difficult decisions. Decisions we didn't want to make, like means testing the winter fuel payment. But we are doing all we can to support pensioners this winter. Protecting the triple lock, which has seen the state pension go up by £900 this year and likely to rise by several £100 next year. The Warms Home discount worth £150. Extending the Household Support Fund, and a huge campaign to get eligible pensioners onto pension credit. And yes, we've scheduled a vote on the winter fuel payment next week, because we are not afraid to have the debate about how we've got to where we've got to. A vote that, quite frankly, would not have happened under his party opposite, because we respect Parliament and we respect doing things properly. He talks about the pay awards to our hard-working public servants. These were pay awards that were sitting on the desk of ministers. They knew they were going to honour them, but they didn't allocate the funds to do so. And frankly, we will take no lessons from the party opposite on cleaning up politics. The party opposite who partied in Downing Street while the rest of the country was locked down. He knows that we all strive to get the best talent into government, and that's why there is a policy of exemptions, appointments, and under the previous government, of the 80,000 appointments to the civil service, how many were done under that regime? Does he know? Does he know? It was 9,000. 9,000 of 80,000 appointments that were done under the exemptions. We had a series of by-elections under his party in the last election. And if he wants to refer back to Hansard, I'll refer him to a previous speech I gave on a list of all the reasons for those by-elections. It makes pretty horrifying reading. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, they have gone from the party of government to the party who gave up on governing. They would have been better spending the summer reflecting on why they've lost so badly instead of trying to tell us that we've never had it so good. I think the one poll rating he should be focusing on is the one that says the public really don't care who the next leader of the Conservative Party is.
Karl.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker. And can I welcome my honourable friend to the dispatch box and congratulate her on what a wonderful job she is doing in government. Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm very concerned that the Post Office Limited are planning to close the post office counter in Morrison's on Alderness Road in East Hull. Many constituents have contacted me. I think there's a petition which has gathered something like 350 signatures in the last 2 days. Would the Minister be prepared to have a debate in government time? I think this issue is across the House and across party, and I think most members would accept that it's about time Post Office Limited started to put people before profit.
Well, can I thank the honourable gentleman for that excellent question. I'm very familiar with this issue, as the Post Office Limited have also closed the historic Spring Gardens Post Office in Manchester city centre as well, and I think this would get wide support were he to apply for an adjournment debate, and hopefully may get a petitions debate, because I think the future of our Crown Post Office is a very important matter to this House.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson Wera Hobhouse.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It is very good to see you in your place. I thank the Leader of the House for announcing the forthcoming business, and I welcome everybody back to this place after the summer recess. And may I also associate myself and the Liberal Democrats with everything that's been said about the Grenfell tragedy this morning. Madam Deputy Speaker, energy bills are set to rise again this winter, and with the government announcing that it will means test winter fuel payments, Age UK has estimated that 2 million pensioners will struggle to pay their bills. I know that many pensioners in Bath are worried sick that they will not be able to heat their homes this winter. Many of them are included in the 1 million pensioners who will just miss out. We Liberal Democrats acknowledge and recognise that the previous Conservative government has left the country's finances in a mess, but pensioners should not be paying for the price of Conservatives' incompetence. Politics is about choices. To push these cuts through when the measures to mitigate the impact will only come through in April 2025 is just not the right way to go about it. I heard from 2 constituents that live in a housing association flat, a Georgian listed building with poor insulation. They get no support with their bills and no means of insulating their homes. Insulating homes and pension rises must come before we cut the winter fuel allowance. And I hope the government will really listen to our side of the argument here. In light of the government's plans to take this support away, can we have a statement from the Minister of State about the pace of home insulation? Because that really will make long-term a difference to decrease bills. But as I say, I think the winter fuel allowances should not be put away before we actually have measures to mitigate against them.
Yeah. Well, can I also welcome the Honourable Lady back to this place and thank her for her thoughtful comments, and she will, I'm sure, be aware of the woeful inheritance that we have been trying to deal with. This is not a situation that we wanted to find ourselves in, and that has meant that we've had to take some really difficult decisions, including means testing the winter fuel payment this winter. I hear what she has to say, but what I would say is that the protection of the triple lock, which this government is committed to, does mean that the state pension this year is worth £900 more than it was worth last year. And it is set to rise further in subsequent years, and that will raise the real value of the state pension over the course of this Parliament, not in cash terms, but in real terms as well. And we are bringing in the Warms Homes discount for the 3 million most vulnerable properties and extending the Household Support Fund. And we have had a huge campaign this week to get all those eligible pensioners onto pension credit, which is something that we want to do. But she's right to say that in the end, what we have to do is reduce people's demand for bills. That's why we have a home insulation, very ambitious home insulation plans, and I'm sure the Secretary of State will come to this House to talk about them in the future. And our plans that we are roaring ahead with for energy independence and a clean energy superpower, which will free us up from the global markets in gas and fossil fuels that will keep people's bills lower for longer, is all part of our plans for the future. Thank you.
And before I call anyone else, members will be aware that we have over 50 people wanting to ask a question in business questions. So can I please ask people to keep the questions short? I call Jo White.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I have been asked by my constituent, who, like my honourable friend, spent hours on Saturday queuing to purchase Oasis tickets. He got two at the hyperinflated price of £300, of £800, that were originally on sale for £150 each. Lengthy queuing puts people under significant pressure to purchase tickets and potentially rash financial decisions that they may later regret. The insurance industry is required to provide a 14-day call-off period to give space for reflection. Will the Minister give consideration to widening the forthcoming Consumer Protection Bill to include such a clause on dynamic pricing ticket sales?
Well, I know she speaks for many millions, myself included, who had that shared experience over the weekend of spending hours in a queue, very British thing that we like to do, to then find that the tickets that we were able to get were at a hugely inflated price. I am pleased to see that Oasis have now announced further dates, and there'll be a non-queuing system and a fixed price for those tickets. But she's absolutely right. This government is committed to putting fans back at the heart of music, and that's why we will be having a consultation on secondary ticket pricing and ticket touts this autumn, and the Culture Secretary has made clear that as part of that consultation we will look at the issues of technology around queuing systems and also the dynamic ticketing pricing that she talks about.
Caroline Dinenage.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I know the Leader of the House understands more than most the value of the British film and high-end TV industry to our economy and to jobs. She will know that in the spring budget earlier this year, the previous government introduced tax credits for UK independent film and tax relief for visual effects costs. Now, I'm a bit worried, and the sector's a bit worried, because at the time her party did not support the finance bill that included these measures, that introduced these measures. So could we have a debate about the new government's commitment to our world-leading creative industries, where they could be able to restate their commitment to these much-needed tax incentives for growth and for the timescales for their implementation?
Well, can I thank the Honourable Lady for that excellent question. I know that these are issues that she has long pursued as the former chair of the DCMS Select Committee, and I know she's standing again for that position, and I wish her good luck in that election next week, I think. She's absolutely right. The tax credit system, which was introduced actually by the last Labour government, has been vital to securing the film industry, the creative industries, and the huge talent that we now have, and the support that this brings to our economy and the wider creative economy. We've long been committed to those measures, but obviously any future announcements will be for the Chancellor in the forthcoming budget.
John Trickett.
Thank you very much indeed. I didn't quite catch you calling me. First of all, let me say how delighted I am to see you help me 20 years ago establish my parliamentary office, and I'm so proud to see you in the chair. I also welcome my great right honourable friend to her position too. Now, many people like me represent mining communities. The miners provided power, light and heat to our country and helped to create our wealth. But they did something else. They created a massive pension fund, which the party opposite sat on for 14 years, allowed it to accumulate and ripped off hundreds of millions of pounds, leaving miners and their widows in poverty on low pensions. Now, she will know that our manifesto promised justice in terms of the miners' pension scheme, and especially the £1 billion which is in a reserve fund. Can I encourage my friend, my right honourable friend, to ensure an early statement or a debate on this matter? This money will be very well received in miners' pockets and their widows too. Thank you, brother.
Well, can I thank my honourable friend for that question. He is a long-standing and very powerful advocate for mining communities in his constituency and beyond, and he's absolutely right to say that we have a clear manifesto commitment to put this injustice right. I will ensure that the relevant minister, has heard his question this morning and gets an appropriate response, and I'm sure we will have further announcements in due course.
Sir John Hayes.
I'd delight, Madam Chairman, to serve under your benevolent stewardship. The House may know that I'm not an advocate of unbridled anarchic freedom. I know the harm men can do with unfettered free will. Nevertheless, the ability to speak freely is the mark of a civilised, open society, which is why the last government introduced a bill in higher education in the light of woke tyranny. Now, I'm disappointed that the Honourable Lady, who I know is a diligent servant of this House, would allow such a bill to be rescinded, and yet the government have said that's exactly what they will do. They're going to reverse that advance we made. So will she allow debate on free speech? For George Orwell said, as she may know, that if liberty means anything, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear.
Can I thank the honourable gentleman for that question? This government has been clear that in support of our world-leading global university sector, we want to end the culture wars that have ensued against our fantastic universities. As the MP for two globally leading universities, I know that message and that change of tone has been widely welcomed in the sector, but I'm sure at education questions next week he may want to raise the issue of the bill.
Tonia Antoniazzi.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. My constituent's daughter, Lily Lucas, died 2 years ago on Monday on Milton Ward at Qustoke Hospital. Lily's death was avoidable. Following the inquest which ruled that Signet breached 8 out of 9 of the regulations, Qustoke is not safe, and as evidenced, there was a lack of basic care. I welcome very much that the Secretary of State has made a clear commitment to address the issues regarding mental health provision in England. But can I ask the Leader of the House for a debate in government time how private healthcare providers such as Signet are held to account in order for our vulnerable young people like Lily are safe in their care?
Can I thank the Honourable Lady for that question? I'm really sorry to hear of Lily's death, and she will know that mental health and suicide is one of the biggest challenges facing our young people, and that's why this government is absolutely committed to supporting mental health provision and to getting it on parity of esteem with physical health provision and all the extra support that's going into our schools and support. But she raises a really good question about private healthcare providers in this space, and she may want to raise those at the forthcoming health questions after the conference recess.
Sarah Dyke.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Tomorrow marks the start of the Big River Watch, where people are encouraged to take part in a UK and Ireland-wide survey of their local rivers. River pollution and our high phosphate levels in rivers like the Brew and the Parrett that flow through Glastonbury and Somerton, my constituency, onto the Somerset Levels and Moors SSSI has stopped much-needed house building. So can I ask the Leader of the House if we can have a debate on government time about the health of our rivers, nutrient neutrality and the impact of river pollution?
Can I thank you for that question? And I'm absolutely delighted to point her to the fact that we are introducing today our first step in cleaning up our rivers with the Water Special Measures Bill in the other place, a groundbreaking bill that will include criminal sanctions as well as stopping the bonuses that we've seen in much of our water companies. But I know that the topic that she talks about in general is one that the whole House will want to take part in should she apply for a debate.
Paulette Hamilton.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Hospices provide a crucial role across the UK, supporting people at the end of their lives and elevating and alleviating the pressure on our NHS. But because of the cost of living crisis, costs are rising and fundraising is falling. It is simply not fair that access to hospice care is a postcode lottery in our country, and it is high time the funding model was changed. So will the Leader of the House please grant time to debate this crucial debate? Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Can I thank the Honourable Lady, who I know has been a doughty campaigner on health issues and issues around hospice funding and others over many, many years, and I thank her for bringing to this House. The Minister of State for Care has recently met with NHS England, and discussions have begun about how to reduce inequalities and variation in access to and quality of palliative care and end-of-life care across England. This will consider funding issues as well, and I know these are very important, and I'm sure she would get a great deal of support on a general debate on hospice funding.
Bob Blackman.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. On Monday, the Secretary of State refused to rule out changes to council tax and indeed refused to rule out the abolition of the 25% discount for single-person occupancy. This morning, I understand that she's made announcements on what may happen on right to buy. Now, given that this is a major change of policy, Mr. Speaker has always requested that major changes of policy should be announced in this place rather than on the media. Could she arrange for the Secretary of State to come and give a statement on what her proposals are so we can hold those to account? And whilst I'm on my feet, can I gently remind her that the pre-recess adjournment debate should be entitled the Sir David Amess pre-recess adjournment debate, as was agreed cross-party.
Well, can I thank him for that? And I'm happy to put on record that this is the David Amess debate that we are granting next week, and I'll make sure that business is amended to reflect that. As he will know, all budget matters relating to tax and other issues are made first to this House in a budget, and we will be having a budget on the 30th of October. But I've worked very hard across the government to make sure that big announcements are made to this House first, and that's why we've seen a record number of government statements since we took office.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Madam Deputy Speaker, e-bikes and e-scooters are very popular with many people, but in London Fields, in my constituency, I'm working with residents and councillors because some are going very fast and there are issues around safety, regulation, and I think it would be good if my right honourable friend would grant a debate in government time about regulation, safety and enforcement of e-bikes across the country.
My honourable friend raises another important question, which I know has been raised in these sessions and elsewhere on a number of occasions. They are fast-moving, well, not, excuse the pun, they're not that fast-moving, but these are fast-moving issues in the sense that the new technologies and new vehicles, and I'm sure that a debate on that would be widely supported should she apply for one.
Dr. Caroline Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
In his 2023 report, the Chief Medical Officer said that cold homes and fuel poverty are directly linked to excess winter deaths. My constituents worried, I'm concerned as well, that the Labour's policy to restrict winter fuel allowance will lead to the ill health, unnecessary ill health and unnecessary death of elderly people. Could she arrange for a debate on the specific subject of the effect of Labour's removal of winter fuel allowance from elderly people on their health and well-being?
Well, as you will have heard, we will be having such a debate next Tuesday. The government has brought that debate forward to allow for a debate and a vote on those issues. But I would gently say to her that perhaps she might want to talk to her colleagues on her own side about the woeful inheritance that we have found. The £22 billion black hole, not for future years, but in this year, which the Office for Budget Responsibility was also appalled to not know about, which has seen higher borrowing and excess spending, particularly around the issue of asylum. And we've had to do something about fixing those broken foundations in year to stabilise this economy.
Making pensioners free.
Andrew Perks.
Shocking.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Good public transport, especially buses, are important to so many things in my constituency in the country, from accessing a GP, visiting friends, getting to college or going to work. The Labour and Cooperative Mayor of Peterborough and Cambridgeshire has just launched a consultation on taking back control of our buses. Despite public support for better buses, though, the franchising model and enhanced partnership models is still bureaucratic and difficult for communities to engage with. Will she join me in welcoming our local consultation and make time in this House for members to debate further improvements for communities to take control of our bus services?
Can I thank the honourable gentleman for that excellent question. He's absolutely right to make the point that the current bus franchising system is incredibly bureaucratic and incredibly lengthy, and that's why we announced in the King's Speech a better buses bill, which will be coming before this House, which will significantly reduce the time it takes and the bureaucracy. And so I hope the Mayor of Peterborough will take his time and make sure that legislation is in before he embarks on the very necessary taking back of control of buses in his area.
Lee Dillon.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Since November 21, the custody suite at Newbury Police Station has been closed, leading to greater travel time and more time where police aren't on the beat. Can the Leader of the House allow time in government's time for a debate on the provision of custody suites across the UK and the impact of the closures under the last Conservative government?
Can I thank him for that important matter? We found over this summer with the riots and the acts of thuggery and the disorder that we saw some real problems in our criminal justice system. Good people doing good work, but the system really creaking at the seams, and police custody suites was very much part of that challenge. We're going to have to do a lot of difficult work to get our criminal justice system fit for purpose so that we can quickly bring people to justice and make sure that those who are convicted of crimes are kept away from the public.
Jessica Tarl.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I join my right honourable friend in congratulating our Team GB Paralympians and Olympians over the summer in Paris. In particular, I'd like to congratulate Bryony Page, who trains at Poole Trampoline and Gymnastics Club in my constituency, Bournemouth West, for her gold medal in the women's trampolining. All of these athletes rely on local clubs, coaches, volunteers across their journey, and in light of Team GB's success, can I ask for a debate on how we support grassroots sports to develop the next generation of champions?
Can I join her in congratulating Bryony Page? I'm sure the whole country remembers that moment and watching what a fantastic display she put on the trampolining gold medal, the first one I think we've ever won. And supporting grassroots sport is a total priority of this government, and we'll continue to do all that we can. My friend may be aware that there was a debate this week in Westminster Hall on some of these issues, but there is DCMS questions coming up straight after the conference recess as well.
Ellie Chowns.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. 5 peaceful climate protesters are serving clearly excessive jail sentences under the last government's profoundly undemocratic Police, Crime, Sentencing and Courts Act 2022, with one given 5 years in jail, 2 years longer than a man who pleaded guilty to violent disorder and assaulting an emergency services worker during the riots in Southport. The UN Special Rapporteur for Environmental Defenders, Michael Forst, has made clear statements to the effect that the sentences violate the UK's obligations, legal obligations, under the Aarhus Convention. So will the Leader of the House please make time for members to discuss the urgent need to repeal this repressive anti-protest law that fundamentally undermines the UK's obligations under international law? Thank you.
Well, I think what she describes is that we have seen in recent years some actions going way beyond acceptable protest, being highly disruptive to local people, to those trying to get to hospital, those in need, and to our wider economy. But on the technical legal matter that she raises, she might want to know that justice questions will be next week, and I'm sure the Secretary of State for Justice will answer her question.
Ian Lavery.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It's 2 years today since the Right Honourable Liz Truss became leader of the Conservative Party. She became the Prime Minister the following day. What happened over the following 49 days crashed, destroyed the economy, creating misery for many, many millions of families and businesses in the UK. Can we have a debate in government time to scrutinise these chaotic, disastrous decisions that were made which caused so much misery to people in our communities, so that no government in the future will ever make the same mistakes?
I couldn't have put it better, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I'm sure that many others will want to make some of those points as the anniversary comes about in the coming couple of weeks, because it's really important actually that we learn the lessons from that disaster and we don't allow history to repeat itself, because when a government of the day makes a huge amount of unfunded spending and tax cut commitments with no idea of where the money is going to come from, they ignore the expert advice of Treasury and other experts, they completely fly in the face of our much valued financial institutions. What happens, as he has recalled, is that we see the soaring rates of government borrowing costs, interest rates having to be raised very, very quickly, and it's mortgage payers and ordinary families and those on fixed incomes who pay the very heaviest price when the government of the day takes such a reckless choice with the economy.
Dr. Luke Evans.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And in Leicestershire, we have fantastic optometrists and opticians. So will the leader ask the Prime Minister, is it just glasses they need to give to be able to get a full access pass to number 10? Or do they need to give suits as well?
This is a government of service. And we are working very hard to turn the page on an era of scandal and sleaze under the previous government. We expect the very highest standards of all of those in government, and that's why we've brought in measures very quickly, such as raising standards and expectations for MPs, raising standards and expectations of ministers, being completely transparent about declarations, and making sure that all the proper processes about appointments are followed at all times, and we will continue to do that.
Rachel Maskell.
Madam Deputy Speaker, the government rightly stated and continues to that prevention will protect our NHS and protect lives. Being cold at home can lead to stroke, heart attack, hypothermia, pneumonia and other such illnesses. Will she encourage the government to read the work of Professor Sir Michael Marmot and Sir Chris Whitty in this area, so that we can take a public health approach to people being warm at home to mitigate the cost that could come without putting right mitigation about the winter fuel payments?
Well, can I thank her for that question and for continually raising these very important matters. The decision to means test winter fuel payments was not a decision that any of us wanted to take. It's a decision we've had to take in order to balance the book, as we have just discussed, because it's those on the lowest incomes who pay the very heaviest price when the economy crashes and the real cost of living goes through the roof. And that's why delivering lower living standards, getting growth in our economy, delivering lower energy bills and getting energy independence are absolutely core to this government's agenda, and that's what we will see over the coming Parliament.
Ben Maguire.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Local communities in and around Port Isaac in my North Cornwall constituency have been left angered and frustrated at the lack of consultation by the Marine Management Organisation relating to applications for huge seaweed farms in their area. Will the Leader of the House give us a debate in government time on making sure that the Marine Management Organisation properly informs, involves and consults with communities when processing applications for marine licences for seaweed farms?
He raises a really important issue which I didn't know a lot about until recently around seaweed farms, and he will know that the Maritime Organisation are required to consult local people. I know he's been very active in that consultation. I hope they listen to what he's had to say, which they have a statutory obligation to do so, and that he can deal with the issues that his local community are worried about with the seaweed farm proliferation in his area. But if he continues to not make progress in that regard, I will make sure that the appropriate minister gets him a response.
Dr. Lauren Sullivan.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Leader will know that on this side of the House, we value adult education and community learning, as well as know there are many paths in education and skills, not just through schools. In Gresham, the Tory-controlled Kent County Council are proposing to close a long-standing adult education centre, the Victoria Centre, which has been at the heart of the community for years. Can we please have a debate on the support local councils give to such community provision and how they should enhance it, not close it? Thank you.
She raises a really important issue, and we've seen over recent years that adult education has been belittled and let down by the previous government, and local government funding cut to the core bone, which is why we're seeing so much of the provision of adult education lost from our communities. This government will try to make sure that education is once again, including adult education, at the forefront of national life. And she, I'm sure, will want to raise these matters with the Secretary of State in Education questions next week.
Dr. Andrew Morrison.
Is the Leader of the House concerned that of those who will suffer as a result of the government's decision to cut the winter fuel allowance live in remote rural locations, in homes that are very often difficult to insulate and very often off-grid? And can we have a debate in government time on how these the government's early priorities will disproportionately impact those people living in the countryside, in remote locations and in rural locations?
Well, like many others, I am furious that this government has had to take these difficult decisions, because his government that he supported over many years left a gaping huge hole in the public finances, which, had we not dealt with it, would have affected his constituents and those living in poverty and those living in homes that are difficult to heat much worse off. So I think he should reflect on that. And also, I might say that under the Conservative government, the home insulation schemes that were previously in existence were largely scrapped. They failed to take action to insulate new homes and improve building regulations. So we're honestly not going to take lectures from them to do that. We have got a hugely ambitious home insulation plan, and as he will know, the the basic state pension is increasing in real value over the course of this Parliament. Living standards fell under his government for the first time in our history. Living standards fell for everybody. We will make sure that living standards go up for people right across this country.
Hobhouse.
They're right behind you.
Thank you, Deputy Madam Speaker, and may I welcome a fellow Yorkshire woman to her place. On a recent walk around Huddersfield Town Centre, tackling antisocial behaviour and retail theft was an important priority for my constituents and small businesses in Huddersfield. So can the Leader of the House allow time for a debate on tackling these important issues?
Well, thank that lady for that question. She will know that under the previous government, retail crime was effectively decriminalised, and those seeking to shoplift, sometimes on industrial scale and in a very organised fashion, were completely let off the hook. And that's why we are committed in our forthcoming criminal justice bill to rectify that situation and make sure that we tackle the scourge of retail crime. Mike Wood.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The last census shows that the population of South Staffordshire grew by just 2.2% over the previous decade. And yet the government thinks that the district needs 14% more houses over the next decade. Please can we have a debate in government time on the methodology behind the government's ludicrous housing targets?
Well, his government failed to meet the challenge of the housing crisis, and this government is unashamedly pro-house building to make sure that we meet the demand of the future and that everybody can live in a safe and secure home of the future. And he will know that one of the ways that we drive that forward is to have ambitious house building targets, and we make no apology about that.
Afzal Khan.
Madam Deputy Speaker, my right honourable friend will know of the importance or role of the Colton Club CIC plays in Whalley Range in my constituency as well as across Manchester. It is not just a social club but an important venue supporting grassroots music and arts. The company that owns the building has now threatened to end the CIC's use of the site. So will the leader join me in calling for the building owners to reconsider their decision and to provide space in government time to debate the importance of social clubs and small venues like the Colton Club to our local communities?
Well, can I thank my honourable friend for raising this important issue. I know how much the Carlton Club is valued in Whalley Range and in Manchester. I was there myself recently at a very good 50th birthday party, which perhaps should stay private at this stage. But I fully support his endeavours to keep this valuable asset alive, and he, I hope, will know that the government is committed to community ownership of such buildings and empowering communities to keep them alive and to run those buildings where that's in the interest of the community, and I hope he will be successful in his endeavours.
Nick Timothy.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In his recent letter to local councils, the Housing Minister appeared to kill off the last government's plan for Cambridge. Can the Minister come to the House and make a statement on the urgent need for improved infrastructure linking Cambridge to various communities, including Haverhill in my constituency of West Suffolk, which desperately needs a rail link to Cambridge?
Well, he will know that housing ministers and the Secretary of State have given a number of statements already to this House, and they will continue to do so, about the national planning framework, about our house building programme, which is ambitious and is going to be a challenge to deliver, but we are determined to do that. And he will also know that in the King's Speech we announced an planning and infrastructure bill which will address some of these issues so that we can have really strategic local plans that deliver for a place, not just for homes, but the infrastructure that those areas need as well.
Matt Trawder.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. May I thank the Leader and the Government for its swift action to tackle the large bonuses being paid to the bosses of water companies. My residents in Reading have suffered from appalling problems with water pollution, both in the Thames and the Kennet, disconnection of family homes from water supply, potholes being created in local roads, and a series of other problems.
Could the Leader of the House ensure that if we do have a debate on water companies, that the mismanagement by senior leaders at the top of the industry is included in the matters to be debated?
Well, can I thank him for that question, and that's why I'm so delighted that today we are introducing the Water Special Measures Bill into the other place, a really important step along the way of cleaning up our waterways, of making water bosses and water companies accountable, stemming the tide of, frankly, awful pollution and discharges into our rivers and lakes and elsewhere. And we're putting in place the tough accountability action that's long been required to do this job.
Ian Amos.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Wellington, in my constituency, a town of 15,000 people, has had no post office for several years, and the threat to post offices is something that is a concern shared across the House. Imagine the delight of the people of Wellington when they heard that a hub was being opened by an organisation called the Post Office, with a post office logo on the outside, only to find later on it won't be providing any post office services. Would the Leader of the House agree this sounds like something out of Yes Minister, and will she grant time for a debate on the rollout of banking hubs and the provision of postal services alongside them in towns that don't have any post office?
Yeah. Well, as has already been raised in this session today, I think the provision of local post office services is a matter of wide interest across this House, and I'm sure if he and other colleagues put in for a debate, they would get a great deal of support for that. Because, I mean, let's be honest, we've seen in the Post Office an organisation that has left serious questions about how it's been run and its governance. And what we don't want to see is, as a result, our vital post office services disappearing from our high streets and town centres. So I will make sure that the relevant minister has heard his question today.
Anna Dixon.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I'd like to join the Leader in congratulating Team GB. A blind runner and his guide who live in Bingley in Shipley constituency have won a medal in the Paralympics, competing under the refugee flag. Junior and Donard are role models, showing courage and resilience, as well as fantastic sportsmanship. We are very proud of them. Can I ask the Leader of the House to make room in government time to debate how we support future Paralympians, including refugees who settle in this country? Thank you.
Well, can I thank the Honourable Lady for that question, and I share in congratulating Junior and Donard on their tremendous bronze medal in the Paralympic Games. And I think all of us have engaged with this issue of athletes going under the refugee flag in both the Olympics and the Paralympics, when in fact they are essentially residents of this country. And I'm sure that is something she might want to raise at DCMS questions just after the conference recess.
Gavin Williamson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and many congratulations on your new role. In Stone, there are many disabled residents who just simply do not have access and aren't able to access the railway station. I know this is an issue in many constituencies up and down the country. Can we have a debate about what can be done to make sure that disabled people have good access to our railway stations? Previously, we had the Access for All scheme, but it's vitally important we have a new scheme to replace that so we can serve our disabled residents.
Well, can I thank the Honourable Gentleman for that question? I think we've all been made extra aware of these issues over recent weeks with the horrific story from Tanny Gray-Thompson with her recent endeavours on our transport network. I can assure him that we are committed to addressing these issues. We're currently considering the best approach with the Access for All programme, but I know that a number of other colleagues will be raising these matters, so I'm sure that a backbench business debate or something else similar would be widely subscribed to.
Alex Baker.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Home Artificial Nutrition Awareness Week took place in August. My constituent, Victor Day, is able to live a normal life at home because he has a feeding tube and the benefit of artificial nutrition? Will the Leader of the House join me in commending the work of the healthcare professionals, home care services and product suppliers, alongside the support of friends and family that allow Victor and many others on home artificial nutrition to live their lives outside of a hospital setting? And can we have a debate about how we can support more people out of hospital settings?
Well, can I too pay my respects to Victor? And I think my honourable friend has highlighted a very important matter that many of us would not be so aware of, and that's why the Home Artificial Nutrition Awareness Week back in August was such an important moment. This government is absolutely committed to providing healthcare in the community outside of hospitals, and provisions like this and innovations like this are absolutely critical to that endeavour, and I thank her for raising them here today.
Luke Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. May I also offer my congratulations on your new role. A constituent I represent is the sibling of a victim of the infected blood scandal, and he's asked me to raise the issue of access to the compensation scheme for the siblings of victims, also the lack of punitive damages in the proposed scheme, and also the concern over the schedule for implementing the proposals. Can the Leader of the House confirm if time might be made available to debate these issues?
Well, he's very fortuitous that the Paymaster General is in fact sitting next to me in this session now. He may be aware that this government has worked at pace to meet our statutory deadline over the recess to set up the compensation scheme for the infected blood scandal, and the Paymaster General has already given 2 statements in the 3 or 4 short weeks that the House has been sitting on this matter, and I know that it is a personal commitment of his to make sure that there is justice and compensation for those affected, and I know he's heard what you've had to say today.
Lee Pitcher.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. At a recent advice surgery I held in Moorends, I heard yet again of the perils of the 30-minute rush system to get a GP appointment. I hear this desperation right across my constituency of Doncaster East and the Isle of Axholme. Not only is it not inclusive, it's unfair. Many people commuting at that time, dropping children off at schools. And of course, if you're unable to phone yourself, you're relying on somebody else who cannot always be there at 8 a.m. What can my right honourable friend action to stop this anxious 30-minute race to get an appointment at 8 a.m. in the morning?
Well, can I thank my honourable friend for raising this issue? We are all familiar, and many of our constituents are all familiar with the 8 a.m. scramble for a GP appointment. This is no way to access our primary healthcare system. That's why the Secretary of State and this government has a commitment to creating 40,000 more GP appointments a week over the course of this Parliament, and that is something that he is dedicating a lot of his time to delivering, and I'm sure he's heard what he's had to say today. There are health questions when we return after the conference recess if he wants to raise it then as well.
Andrew Snowden.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I first of all thank the Leader of the House for the correspondence following my last question around the cabling corridor in Fylde, which is causing great concern to residents. I appreciated the quick correspondence, so thank you. Will she ask the Cabinet Office to send a minister to the House to make a statement on whether Sir Laurie Magnus is still the Prime Minister's special advisor on ministerial interests? If not, whether a new appointment timeline can be made, and to confirm that the Prime Minister will abide by any rulings by that special advisor?
He is very much still the government's advisor on these matters. It is not our intention to mess around and make political appointments to such matters, and we are going to take very seriously, much more seriously than the previous government, who frankly, let's be honest, ignored many of the recommendations and findings of their own advisor in this matter, and I can assure him that the Prime Minister takes behaviour and standards extremely seriously and has a zero tolerance when misdemeanours are found.
Soden Joseph.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I recently paid a visit to the William Harvey Hospital in my constituency, Ashford, and so 19 patients being treated by staff in corridors. Will the Leader of the House find time for a debate on overcrowding in hospitals and what the government are doing to fix the broken NHS that the Conservatives have left the country?
Well, he raises a very important issue, and we are all familiar with what is happening in our hospitals, our A&E departments. My husband is an A&E doctor too, so I hear these stories most evenings at home. And the waiting lists, the waiting times, the chronic understaffing, underfunding and lack of support for our NHS has left it on its knees. It's why one of the first acts of the Secretary of State was to resolve the junior doctors dispute so that we didn't have strike action blighting our attempts to deal with it. But getting waiting lists down, which is going to be tough, and restoring our National Health Service to a National Health Service that people can rely on is a key mission for this government.
Shorter answers will be appreciated. Martin Vickers.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. During the exchanges that followed my urgent question earlier this morning about steel manufacturing, it was evident that the Minister was unable to give detailed response, particularly in respect of the, maintaining the capacity to produce virgin steel in the UK. In view of the many unanswered questions, could the Leader of the House arrange for a debate in government time on the future of the UK steel industry?
I congratulate him on getting his urgent question granted today, and I can assure him that where there are developments, and this government is working at pace to secure the future of British steel production, it's a key priority for us. Where there are developments, ministers will come to this House and make sure this House hears them first.
Gareth Snell.
Madam Deputy Speaker. Madam Deputy Speaker, BTECs provide a vital route into higher and further education for thousands of learners across the country. And it was welcome news that the Education Secretary has announced a pause and review of the ad hoc cancellation programme of the last government. But could I, through you, gently remind the Leader of the House that colleges need to know now what qualifications they can offer next September? So could she, through her office, arrange for a statement from the Education Secretary on BTECs and a general debate in government time so that we can all celebrate the BTECs that we see our young people doing in our constituencies?
But he raises an important matter about BTECs and their future. This is something that's raised with me as well as a constituency MP and many others, I'm sure. We've got education questions next week, and if these answers are not found at that session, I will ensure that the relevant minister comes to this House to provide them.
Neil Shastri-Hurst.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. There are many excellent military charities in this country, including Troop Aid in my own constituency. Given the vital work that they do, will the Leader set aside government time to debate what further support can be given and provided to them?
Well, our military charities and armed forces charities do immense work, and we have upcoming Remembrance Sunday, obviously, in the Poppy Appeal as well, and that's usually a time when this House marks those occasions, often with debate or statement. I'm sure if he put in for one, that would be widely received.
We have 10 people left and 10 minutes. If they can keep everything to a sentence, I could try and squeeze them all in. Claire Hughes.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Community energy projects like Only Ogwen in my constituency already play a vital role in the energy mix, and with GB Energy, we'll see a huge increase in clean power projects. Will the Leader of the House make time for a debate on this important topic of community energy?
Well, community energy projects are vital to our clean energy superpower mission, and Great British Energy that will be debated this afternoon is an important step towards that, and I'm sure she'll want to come in and raise those matters then.
Ashley Fox.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. There are 141,000 children living in kinship care in England and Wales. 47% of these children have special education needs and disabilities. Will the Leader of the House ask a minister from the Department for Education to make a statement on improving support for children in kinship care?
He's absolutely right. These kinship carers play a vital role. He's also right that special education needs are vitally important to our mission to make sure we have opportunity for all, and special education need has been this poor relation for the last few years, and that's something that we're going to put right. We have got education questions next week, and I hope you can come in and ask that then.
As ever, Jim Channing.
I thought you. My apologies, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm so used to the routine, I just accepted that. Anyway, that's okay. Thank you. Can I thank the Leader of the House again for the opportunity to ask an important question? This was on the radar of members who care about protecting freedom of religion or belief. I'd like to turn our attention to Nicaragua, if I could. Since 2018, the regime of Daniel Ortega has unleashed relentless attacks on the Catholic faithful. Viewing it as the last hurdle of opposition in that country, they have systematically targeted religious leaders, imprisoning bishops, priests and seminarians on baseless charges and forcing them into exile. The closure of the Catholic media outlets, the confiscation of church properties and the suppression of religious education echo the darkest days of history in communist countries and dictatorships of the past. So will the Leader of the House join me in condemning such violations of freedom of religion and belief, and will the Leader ask in the Foreign and Commonwealth and Development Office to raise these issues, very important issues, with their counterparts in Nicaragua? Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
As ever, he continues to raise the important issues of freedom of religion and belief in this House, and I share his concern about the arbitrary detention of members of the church in Nicaragua. We welcome the release of 7 priests in August, but we are alarmed by their expulsion from Nicaragua. What is happening there is acceptable, and I thank him for raising it on the floor of the House.
Sarah Russell.
I'd like to associate myself with the comments about freedom of religion. But what I'm here for today is to raise accessibility on Sandbach Station, which unfortunately the Manchester platform cannot be accessed by those with luggage, those with disabilities, those with buggies or those with bikes. I would like to join with the earlier calls, please, for a debate about station accessibility.
Well, as so many people are raising the issue of station accessibility, and she raises important points about Sandbach Station, I'm sure if she joined forces with the honourable gentleman from earlier for a backbench business debate, once we have the chair in place, I'm sure there would be a lot of support for it.
David Baines.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Turk's Head pub in my constituency is once again in the running for Camera Pub of the Year, so will the Leader of the House please join with me in congratulating them and wishing them luck, and will she agree with me that pubs and indeed all small businesses play a vital role in our economies and communities and allow government time to give due consideration to their importance?
Well, I think as the Member of Parliament with the most pubs in their constituency, I share wholeheartedly his support for our local pubs and pubs in St Helens North, and I'm sure that every time they get raised in this House, there's widespread support for our great British pub, and any time he wants a debate, I'm sure he'll get one.
Deirdre Costigan.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Every night of the week, vulnerable people sleep outside in the rough in front of Southall Community College, in the bins of the Havelock Estate and in other corners of my constituency of Ealing Southall. Indeed, since 2010, rough sleeping in England has doubled due to the policies of the last government, including a broken asylum system and mental health system in crisis. Will the Leader of the House allow time for a debate to look at the multiple causes of rough sleeping and some of the potential solutions, including taking a cross-departmental approach to this issue?
Well, she raises a really important matter, and the Deputy Prime Minister has already set up and chaired an interministerial group working with mayors and councils as well to end homelessness, and she will be aware that we'll shortly be bringing forward our Renters Reform Bill, which will abolish Section 21 no-fault evictions, and there will be plenty of time to debate that and other matters in due course.
Mark Seward.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Councils up and down the country are still facing impossible financial decisions. In my constituency of Leeds South Western Morley, Leeds City Council is closing one of the final care homes in the whole of Leeds, No Manor. Now, residents of Morley have made their feelings very clear. Over 3,000 have signed a petition to keep this care home open. Will the Leader of the House agree with me that we need a debate on the introduction of neighbourhood health centres, organisations which bring together doctors, nurses, care workers, physiotherapists and other health professionals, and which I think No Manor would be a prime candidate to be?
Well, I'm really sorry to hear about the closure of his local care home, and he's absolutely right. Our commitment to neighbourhood health services is how we will begin to tackle some of these issues going forward, and that's why that is a key part of the health mission of this government, to get our health and care service back on its feet.
Laura Kirksmith.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. My constituency of Aylesbury has experienced extensive house building in the last decade. My constituents are very understanding of the need for new homes, but their patience has been tested again this week by horrible traffic on the roads, the result of the previous government's haphazard approach to house building. Will the Leader of the House ensure a debate on our future house building plans to ensure that they are accompanied by the necessary infrastructure and services? Thank you.
Well, she's absolutely right, and that's why we are unashamedly pro-house building, but we are unashamedly for that being delivered by local strategic plans which have infrastructure and services at the heart of that house building programme in places like Aylesbury and elsewhere, and I'm sure there will be forthcoming debates on that shortly.
Joe Morris.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. My constituent Michael Parry is currently fighting pancreatic cancer. He's raised it with me on numerous occasions, and I'd just like to ask the Leader of the House if we could have a debate on government time about screening for pancreatic and other high mortality cancers.
Well, I'm sure the thoughts of the whole House will be with his constituent Michael during this difficult time. He's absolutely right that cancer patients are waiting far too long for diagnosis and treatment, and that's why we are going to double the number of the state-of-the-art MRI and CT scans in the NHS, and he'll be aware that health questions are coming up after the conference recess too.
Andrew Davies.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can we have a debate in government time on veteran affairs, whether it's access to health and housing, support for veterans' children, or veteran cards being used as an acceptable form of ID for voting? Can we have a debate about how to make this country the best place in the world for a veteran to live?
Well, he raises a really important matter, and that's why we have committed to legislating to establish an Armed Forces Commissioner to champion our armed forces and improve their service to this country, and that will be forthcoming soon.
Jonathan Davies.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Sixth formers at Belper School in my constituency of Mid Derbyshire tell me that they face inordinate waits to undertake a driving test. Please can I ask the Leader of the House to work with her Cabinet colleagues to address this issue as part of the new government's plans to get this great country back on the road to recovery?
I'm sure the Transport Secretary will come forward to this House at some point about driving tests for young people, which I know is a real issue, and we support young people being able to get the independence that they need from driving. We have got transport questions actually on my 50th birthday, for those who want to know, on the 10th of October. I know I don't look old enough. On the 10th of October, and I'm sure she'll want to raise it then.
Well, that's a very early birthday present. And we're getting the last speaker in, so well done, everybody. Josh Newbury.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Care leavers all too often face a postcode lottery of inconsistent support, leading to wide disparities in accessing vital services like social housing, financial advice and mental health support. Will the Leader of the House make time for a debate on the development of a national care leaver offer so that all of our care leavers can get the support they need and deserve?
Well, care leavers really have had the poor end of the deal in recent years, and they have poorer outcomes, and their lives are more difficult as a result of having been in care, and that's why we do want to see a real strategic approach to these things. And in the King's Speech, we announced a Children's Wellbeing Bill, which will allow us to take forward some of the legislative changes we need to address this.
Well, thank you so much to the Leader of the House for taking everybody. I'll just give a moment for everyone to swap their seats.